Hi everyone. I put this example together in a previous teaching period to show you not only the sorts of information that goes in the table for this week's activity, but also to show you what it's going to look like when you're completing the first part of assignment 2. If you haven't had a chance to look at assignment 2 yet, I recommend you do that, and this will make a lot more sense. So Assignment 2 and this particular weekly activity is asking you to analyse a couple of different assessment strategies that teachers typically use. The example that I've chosen here is an oral language assessment strategy. So it's not relevant to your second assignment, because your second assignment asks you to analyse and evaluate 3 reading strategies, or 3 reading assessment strategies, and 3 writing assessment strategies. So as it says over here, this is an assessment tool that teachers teaching in early childhood, or perhaps teachers of students with English as their second language, might use to gauge how children's oral language is developing and identify if there are problems, what they need to target teach. So just to point out, for assignment 2, you've got 150 words per strategy to fill out in the table. So this particular example is using up about 143. You'll notice that these first couple of columns here are very limited in the words used. It's very brief, gets to the point, doesn't include full sentences necessarily, just dot point summary of what's being assessed, and as briefly as you can, how the teacher collects the data. These last 2 columns of the table is where more information comes in. So if I start with the critical evaluation first, critical evaluation needs you to explore what research and scholarly literature is saying about the assessment strategy, and you'll see here that any of these dot points are referenced for that reason. So highlighting any limitations that the assessment strategy has and any benefits that the assessment strategy has. This particular column here is looking at how the data is used by the teacher, and a key part of this week's learning is to understand that there are different types of assessment purposes, and these include formative assessments and summative assessments. Formative is also referred to as assessment for learning, and what it means is that the teacher uses assessment strategies at the beginning of teaching and throughout teaching to obtain evidence that informs what they need to teach. So in other words, it's not okay for a teacher to just be teaching and have no idea until the end of their particular lesson or their unit whether or not students have actually understood anything about it. So one of the key things that teachers actively do is formatively assess as they go and adjust their teaching accordingly. So I've highlighted some formative uses of the data in purple here. I've also drawn some arrows coming in from this benefits column in the critical evaluation, and the reason I've done that is because this scholarly literature is actually giving some tips about how the data is used. So look for opportunities to apply this research or scholarly literature elsewhere in the table. The more summative uses of the data that are used at the end to measure where a child is at. This might be for assessment and reporting purposes, or over time to record changes in a child's use of grammatical structures. Importantly, in order to, even though I've identified this bit as a summative use of the data, in order to know if there's been changes, then this sort of assessment would have to happen at the start. So used formatively initially and then followed up at the end for summative purposes. So you've got that growth over time.